Welcome everybody to another set of Shimmering Skies card reviews, almost the full set revealed now, and we've got in today's video a legendary card as well as a few others which have flavor text which hint towards the future of Disney Lorcana, which is really exciting. I also want to let you know I now have a TCG Player affiliate code or link, so if you are buying cards on TCG Player anyway, it would really support me if you use my referral link whenever you're doing so, as I get a little bit of a kickback on that, and it's a great way of supporting the channel for absolutely free. Arthur Novice Sparrow is the first card we're looking at. We've actually got two Arthur cards to start the video off, and we've already seen a legendary Steel Arthur, which is a Floodborn Shift, so definitely bear that card in mind for both of these. It's a 1-cost uninkable with a 2/3 stat line, and it has Reckless. So I don't think this is a card that you would play without the Shift Arthur, but with the Shift Arthur, it seems like a really good shift target. Just good stats, early board control, and if you're shifting it on, it's pretty difficult to deny that, right? Like a 2/3 on turn 1 to then shift could be a really valuable strategy. The next one is in Steel, which is where the Shift Arthur is, and it's a 2-cost inkable with a 2/2 stat line that quests for 2. It's the vanilla stat line for a 2-cost card. Arthur Wart, bit of a weird name, not going to lie. Not really sure I understand that one. That boy's got a real spark. Lots of spirit, throws himself heart and soul into everything he does. Merlin. This is a fine card. You're not going to play it unless you're playing the Shift Arthur, but if you are playing the Shift Arthur, this is a really good card to have in your deck. Archimedes, the Exasperated Owl. We also saw a Floodborn Archimedes in the previous video, which is a 5-cost. This is a 3-cost inkable in Amethyst, 2/2 stat line, which quests for 2. Evasive. That's just good. You really can't go wrong with that. I mean, you compare it to Minnie Mouse, Stylish Surfer, which is a 1/3, or Carefree Surfer, I think she is in fact. It's a 1/3 which quests for 2. So this is a similar type of card, but in Amethyst. Ruby doesn't really have that many aggressive decks, which is probably why the Minnie Mouse card has gone out of favor a bit. But Amethyst can definitely build decks more aggressively than Ruby. And this is a really good card in an aggressive deck. And I think therefore it will see play. What does an owl have to do to get a little peace and quiet around here? We've got Healing Touchup next, which is removing up to 4 damage from a chosen character and then drawing a card. It's a 3-cost inkable in Amber. It is a common card. The heart is not so easily changed, but the head can be persuaded. Grand Pabby. So the interesting thing about this one is we already have a very similar card to this, and I would say this is just an inferior version of Heal What Has Been Hurt, which is a song card, which I think removes up to 3 damage. Maybe it's 2, and draws a card. Costs 3, but it's also a song. So this just seems like a strictly worse version of that. There's definitely the potential of an Amber Sapphire Grand Pabby deck with this set. We've got a lot of support for that, and obviously the flavor text and the art is kind of hinting towards that being the way to play this card. I mean, if you're all in on Grand Pabby, it might make the cut, but I think it's worse than Heal What Has Been Hurt. Up next, we have Prince John's Mirror. This is a fascinating card, so much to talk about with this one. The community over on Twitter lost their minds a little bit about this card, but I'm here to tell everyone to relax. It's not as good as you might think it is. Don't get me wrong, it's good. It's 3-cost inkable item. There's a lot of items, by the way, in Shimmering Skies, so cards like Benja and item removal cards, definitely worth investing into if you don't already have. If you have a character named Prince John in play, you pay 1 ink less to play this item. So you could play Prince John on turn 3, and then on turn 4 you could go Ursula Deceiver and Prince John's Mirror, which is quite an interesting approach. There aren't currently any 1-cost Prince John cards in the game, so I don't think that this part of the ability is as important as it might seem. If there was a 1-cost Prince John, and then you could play this on turn 2, now we're talking about a very aggressive curve. But this card is not going to be seeing play, in my opinion, in your standard Emerald discard decks. Of course, we don't have Bucky anymore. Let's finish the rest of the ability. We'll talk about that then. A Feeling of Power. At the end of each opponent's turn, if they have more than 3 cards in their hand, they discard until they have 3 cards in their hand. So I think the first thing to say is that 3 cards in hand at the end of your opponent's turn is actually quite a lot. It might not seem it, but certainly for a discard deck, Bucky's being nerfed, essentially banned because of how big the nerf is. So the tactic for discard Emerald decks is Merfolk on 1, Flynn Rider on 2, Prince John on 3. So then Prince John's Mirror isn't really doing that much, right? They remove your Merfolk, they remove your Flynn, they're already at like 2 cards in hand maybe, and then you play Prince John's Mirror, it's very, very slow. Whereas these Emerald discard decks are looking to use discard to gain even more tempo in the early game. You're looking to play down a bunch of early aggressive questing threats, and apply pressure to your opponent's hand by discarding it, potentially drawing cards with Prince John. So Prince John's Mirror just does not fit that game plan at all. It is gaining you 0 lore. If you're already discarding cards from your opponent's hand, it's probably not even discarding cards from their hand. So this will not see play in these aggressive discard decks, in my opinion. Maybe you could play like a copy of it. I doubt it. I just don't think once the lists are refined and settled that this will see play in those decks. Does that mean that this card is bad and won't see any play? No. I think it will definitely see play, but I think it's going to be seeing play in a different style of Emerald deck to what we're used to seeing, which is a more mid-range control type approach. We haven't really seen decks like Emerald Sapphire, Emerald Ruby really put in too much work, but I think even like an Emerald Amethyst deck where you're just playing the long game with card draw with cards like Rabbit, you could battle your opponent for card draw, your opponent's at 7 cards in hand, you're at 7 cards in hand, 10 turns into the game, and then you drop Prince John's Mirror, and that's where this card can really see its value. It's just like a 1 or 2 of copy in a mid-range style of deck, maybe a control style of deck. You're really trying to battle for card draw. You're not focusing on discarding your opponent's hand, but you're doing other things instead, and then this gets all its value. The other thing to consider is in the Sapphire deck, again, Emerald Sapphire, not a deck we've ever seen have competitive success. It's a great option for Flavisham. There's big synergy with cards like the Queen, Scuttle, all these Sapphire cards. Prince John's Mirror is not going to see play in the aggressive Emerald decks, I don't believe, but it could find a home elsewhere. Blast from Your Past, which is a super rare 6-cost uninkable action song in Amber. Name a card, return all character cards with that name from your discard to your hand. Magic Brooms, Jafar, the Queen. There's definitely the potential for some Queen theme decks where this could gain you a bunch of extra cards in hand. Not super convinced it's going to see necessarily play in those. A very cool idea for this is in an Amber Emerald deck with the 3-cost Queen. And again, the Queen. So it could be an option for her. But it's the 3-cost uninkable Queen, which discards a card from hand and gains lore equal to that amount. Probably you could use that on the new Mirabelle card, which has 5 lore. So you gain 5 lore with Mirabelle, play Blast from Your Past to put the Mirabelle back in your hand, go with the Queen again and gain another 5. That's got potential. Also, Prince Naveen, the legendary card from the previous video I said might be the best legendary from the set, is a 4-cost uninkable in Amber, which when you play it, you can play a song card for 6 or less for free. So it's got some good synergy with Prince Naveen. It's definitely got a lot of potential. Up next, we've got Camilo Madrigal, which is a new legendary card in Amethyst. Costs 6 ink, it has 3 strength, 7 willpower, and it quests for 1. The ability Imitate. Whenever this character quests, you may gain lore equal to the lore of chosen other character of yours. Return that character of yours to your hand. So if you target a merfolk, Camilla would quest for 3. You bounce the merfolk back into your hand, and then you could replay it. It's got potential. I will say that its stat line is not something I'm a big fan of. The 3 strength and 7 willpower. If you compare it to Robin Hood Daydreamer, which is a vanilla card, which quests for 4 in Emerald, that has a 4-6 stat line. I would much rather 4-6 because it's out of Medusa range. Similarly, how many cards that quest for a lot do you really want to bounce back into your hand? Definitely the best targets are cards with a lot of lore, which are cheap. So actually the best card, which has just come to my mind, maybe is like a Daisy Duck. She only quests for 2. Maybe like a Caterpillar from Sapphire could be an interesting option, which quests for 3 and it costs 3. So you could quest with the Caterpillar, replay it the same turn you quest with Camilla, and then Camilla will quest for 4. Robin Hood Daydreamer means that Camilla will quest for 5. If you can target this with Mirabelle, it would quest for 6. So there's definitely some utility and some options to this card. I definitely don't think it's bad. However, I do think its stat line of 3 strength lets it down quite a bit. I'm not super huge on this card. I do like cards which can quest for a lot. Cards which quest for a lot are always serious considerations and things which I think get underestimated. Ultimately, how do you win Disney Lorcana? By gaining lore. So cards which can gain lots of lore at once cannot really be bad. Returning character to hand, also just on a goat, could be okay. It would quest for 2 and then you could replay your goat. Not spectacular, but not bad. So I think it's okay. Up next, we have Arna, which is a new Floodborn. 7 cost uninkable, 4/5, quest for 2. It's a shift 4. Exceptional power. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. Very powerful ability. Very similar to Elsa from set 1, which is really cool and quite thematic. Elsa's going to exert 2 characters and they can't ready at the start of the turn, whereas Anna is exerting everything and they can ready. So I have to say, I honestly quite like this card a lot because Amethyst doesn't have a good way of controlling the board. Doesn't have grab your swords, it doesn't have be prepared. So a lot of the time when you try and combine Amethyst with things like Sapphire, you just don't quite have enough control. But this is a potential control option. Can come through on turn 4 with a shift, and then you can use your other characters like the Madam Mim Fox to trade into things. And that gives you some board control and slows down your opponent and helps you regain the late game. I think this card's got a lot of potential. I like it quite a bit, actually. It's not bad. It's expensive, but if you do shift it and you are able to bounce it back and replay it, it's also worth considering that you would also get the card you shifted onto back in your hand, right? So let's say you play like an Anna from Sapphire, which costs 2. This definitely seems like the best place for it, which can quest for 2. It's like a 1/4. You could then shift this on turn 4, bounce this back into your hand on turn 5, ink the other Anna, and then play this again later. So there's definitely some very interesting potential with this card. I do like it quite a lot. Scroop the Odious Mutineer, which is a 3-cost Ingable, 2/1 stat line, quest for 2, it's evasive, it's a super rare. Do say hello to Mr. Arrow. When you play this character, you may pay 3 ink to banish chosen damage character. So, really this is like a 6-cost card in many ways. I don't mind this card. It's actually very similar to an Emerald card we're going to be looking at later on in the video, a new Anna in Emerald, which is a legendary, who has a similar kind of ability that can pay 2 to banish chosen damage character, cost 3 as well. That Anna card has more flexibility, it isn't evasive. I do quite like this card. And obviously in an Emerald Steel deck where you're doing lots of damage, this is a card which you're quite happy to just play for 3. But if you have 6 ink, you're even more happy potentially. So I actually think this card's pretty good. I do quite like the look of this one. We have Simba, which is a 6-cost Ingable, 3/5 stat line, and it's a Floodborn Simba, which shifts in for 4. It quests for 1. Impressive Roar. When you play this character, banish chosen item or location. Hello, what a card. Yes. Yes. This is going to be in a lot of decks. I know a lot of you are going to be excited to see a Floodborn Simba finally. And this is the second card we've seen that costs 6 and can get rid of locations. There's a Cuzco in Sapphire, which puts the location into the Inkwell. Simba's just removing it. Straight up removing it. This card is very, very good. Very, very good. I like it a lot. I hate Rise of the Titans as a card because it's just removing a location but does nothing. This removes a location and puts stats on the board. Not big stats. 3/5, quest for 1, but it's a singer. It's a hero by the looks of it as well. I like it a lot. Okay, another card I like a lot is Clarabel. I revealed a baby version of this, if you will, a 3-cost Inkable version, 2/3 stat line in Emerald, which when you play it, if your opponent has more cards in hand than you, you draw a card and it quests for 1. And I was like, yeah, this card's not bad, but it felt like it was missing a little bit of something. Well, this is what it was missing. It was missing a Floodborn to shift onto, because that is a very, very, very good shift target. And Clarabel, 7 cost, shift 5, 5/6 stat line quest for 2. Keep up the pace. At the end of your turn, choose an opponent. If they have more cards in hand than you, draw until you have as many cards in hand as them. Very, very powerful in Emerald. Emerald does not have a lot of card draw. Prince John is kind of the exception to that. But this is card draw in abundance. This is going to enable a lot of Emerald decks which weren't previously consistent enough. Emerald Ruby comes to mind, for example. You could play this in a discard deck as well, and if your discard game plan doesn't go that well, then you can use it. But even if your discard game plan is going well and your opponent's down at 2 cards in hand, you're down at none, then bang, you use Clarabel and then discard the last 2 in the same moment. Like, it can sing, we don't talk about Bruno, for example. I don't know, I think this card's got a lot of potential. I think it's good. I like it a lot. The Library, this card's insane. 3-cost Ingable location in Amethyst. Costs 1 to move there. It has 8 willpower and it gains 1 lore. Lost in a Book. Whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. So you play this on turn 4, you move in your Chernobogs, you draw of your Chernobogs, it gets banished, you draw another card. Same with Magic Brooms. So much synergy there already. But then obviously you can even move cards like Maui in there. If your Maui's going to get banished in a challenge, you can move cards like Fox in there in your own turn. 8 willpower is a lot. This card is very, very good. It's going to see a lot of competitive play and could enable some really interesting Jim Hawkins location decks in Ruby Amethyst and also Amethyst Steel with John Silver. Great card. Up next, we have the Tyrannical Hypnotist Jafar. No one will keep me from the broken crown. Ursula's crown is broken, and it looks like Jafar is after it. We've also seen Hades plotting in the background from the set 4 flavor text. If you guys would like to see me do a video covering a bunch of the hints and flavor text in Disney Lorcana cards, let me know. It's something I'm really interested in doing. I'm really interested in doing a video on the story of Lorcana from the first few sets, but then also predicting the future. 6-cost Inkable with a 0/7 stat line, and it has 2 lore. Challenges 7, so it's a 7/7 when challenging, and the Intimidating Gaze is opposing characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge. I like this card a lot. Now, this doesn't look that amazing on the surface, I have to say, but what I like about this card is it's just a powerful Jafar card which can go into an all-in Jafar deck, because you're more than happy to shift your 7-cost Striking Illusionist Jafar onto this to sing a whole new world instantly. More than happy. And this is not an easy card to answer when you put it down on the open board. Okay, against Ruby, Brawl, and Medusa, but they're going to be wanting to use Brawl and Medusa on all of your other Jafars. So it's just another Jafar, which is overloading the removal, but moreover, it's a Jafar which you're happy to put in your deck, because if you're not shifting it on, it's still decent. And opposing characters of cost 4 or less can't challenge. That's all of your characters they can't challenge. So suddenly, if you've got the 3-cost Amethyst Jafar, which is a 2/2, which quests for 2, you might not want a quest of that. But suddenly, with the Tyrannical Hypnotist, you might feel a lot more secure being able to quest with that card and remaining on the board. So I like it a lot. I love an all-in Jafar deck. It's also the Lamp, which is the Amethyst item, uninkable, 2 cost, and if you have a character named Jafar on the board, you can draw 2 cards. It's just another Jafar card to improve the odds of that. I like it a lot. I really, really do. And look at this. We're not done with the flavor text. The Hypnotic Strength. Suddenly, Basil felt a strong desire to find the broken crown. Draw a card. Chosen character gains Challenger 2 this turn. This is very similar to Improvise, which is a 1-cost Emerald card, which gives a character 1 strength for the rest of this turn and draws a card. That doesn't see any play, but obviously in a Jafar deck, Hypnotic Strength could make some sense. I feel like it might be a little bit too weak, but it's an option. Hypnotic Deduction. Oh my goodness. There he is. Basil, the Great Mouse Detective. It looks like Jafar has got Basil under their control. A security device, easily defeated of course. Once I make room for the crown, I can bring it to him. Oh my goodness, it's getting spicy in here. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on the top of your deck in any order. And this does not seem like a very good Emerald card unless you're playing Jafar. But if you're playing Jafar, I think it's very, very good. Emerald, Amethyst, Jafar, definitely a deck which is close to being good in set 4, something I'm considering playing at my set champs tomorrow. Not quite there, I think, but this is a really great addition because you can use this if you're missing your big Jafar, for example. This is consistency, but also you can just plan ahead a little bit. For example, you might be able to put second star to the right on top of your deck, so you shift in Jafar, and then the next turn you draw second star to the right when you want it. Also, if you've already got Jafar down, you're gaining 3 lore from it. So I don't think it's going to see any play outside of a Jafar deck, but in a Jafar deck, I can definitely see the potential for a card like this. Gazelle. 2/3 stat line, which quests for 2. It's Singer 5. It's like Gaston, which I think Gaston Singer 5 is a really underestimated card and has been creeping into some competitive meta lists. This is like got worse stats than Gaston in terms of strength, I believe, but quests for 1 more, which is twice as much. This card's really good. This is definitely a very powerful card. Great with Sing Together. Questing for 2 compared with Gaston just makes this a better version of Gaston, and I think Gaston's already pretty good, so I like this card. Up next we have another Queen, so there's definitely the potential of an Amber Sapphire Queen deck, because this is support for such a deck. It has Ward, and when you play this character, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal each character named the Queen and put them in your hand, put the rest on the bottom in any order. It's 4-cost uninkable, 3/2, quest for 2. Gonna be honest, I don't like it. I don't think there's enough support for an all-in queen deck for this to ever see play right now. Maybe down the line. There just doesn't really seem like there's enough payoff for an all-in queen deck. And this, therefore, is just going to be really inconsistent. I'm not sold at all by this one. Card I am sold on is Maximus, Champion of the Team. It's a 6-cost inkable super rare with a 3/5 stat line that quests for 2. And the ability is a reward of a worthy king. At the end of your turn, if you have a character in play with 5 strength or more, gain 2 lore. If that character has 10 strength or more, gain 5 lore instead. So the 5 lore with 10 strength is pretty difficult to pull off. We did see a Gaston card, I believe it was, with 10 strength in Ruby. So that's something to bear in mind, because I think that card's very good. But also there's synergies with the Queen, for example, where you could use the Queen on something like Maui to get it to 10, or on Hercules. But the thing is, you're playing Maui on 5, you're playing Maximus on 6, and you already gain 2 lore the turn you play Maximus, and it still quests for 2, and it remains to be a threat. This card's very, very good. This could be removed instantly, and it could still gain you 2 lore. That's all you need to know. Thumbs up for me on Maximus. I think this is going to see a lot of play. Revive. Play a character card with cost 5 or less from your discard for free. It's uninkable. Now, I actually recorded this video a moment ago, and my mic was all muffled and not working properly. And I wasn't that keen on this card, but one card which has just come to mind, I was sat there thinking about 5-cost cards in Amber. And a lot of you are going to be saying Mufasa, and while sure that's an option, playing this card in your deck inherently makes Mufasa worse. So there's got to be a better target for it than Mufasa, and I couldn't really think of much. But I've thought of something that's better. And it doesn't cost 5, it costs 4, and it's Rapunzel. You are more than happy to pay 5 on a Rapunzel in a Ruby Amber deck, for example. More than happy. This card could be really good on Rapunzel. And I'm sure there's other targets in other ink colors, like Maui's and other things. Jim Hawkins, maybe, in like a Amber Ruby location deck. I'm not sure about that, but this card's got potential. Absolutely it does. I think this card's good. It's got to be good, right? It's got to be good, really. It is uninkable, but so much flexibility, you know. If you're in a deep game, you've got a whole bunch of cards in your discard. It's going to hit something good, isn't it? It's not something you're going to want in your opening hand after the mulligan. But if you're not playing many uninkables, this is a great option. Rattais Party, the seedy back room, is a 2-cost inkable location in Ruby. Costs 1 to move there, and it has 7 willpower. Misfits Revelry. While you have a damaged character here, this location gets +2 lore. I mean, the obvious place for this is that Amber Ruby location deck, which is almost good in set 4. If you are getting 2 lore off this, it's very good. But the thing is, the first turn you play it, if you play it on turn 2, it's going to gain nothing. I don't know. I'm not really convinced by this card. I think it's okay. It could be fine. But this is not a card you want to play on turn 2. This is more a card you want to play on like turn 4, when you've already got a damage card on the board and you can move it in. And then if the damage card's removed or this is removed, it's gaining no lore. I think it's fine in very specific decks. Probably Ruby Amber being the place. Not super convinced. Up next we have Patcha, the Emperor's Guide, which is a 3-cost inkable in Sapphire, 0/4 stat line which quests for 2. Helpful supplies at the start of your turn if you have an item in play, gain 1 lore. Perfect directions at the start of your turn if you have a location in play, gain 1 lore. So you play a Porpsicle on 1, a location on 2. Maybe like Mutanui is one that comes to mind in Sapphire, but hopefully something better than that. And you play Patcha on 3. At the start of your turn 4, you can gain 2 lore and quest for 2. That's very good. You're not going to play this in like a traditional Sapphire deck because Sapphire is wanting to ramp on turn 3 with Mickey and Fishbone. But in a more aggressive Sapphire deck, this could work. It's also a hero, and I know there's some synergies of heroes in Sapphire. So this is a card to keep an eye on. I think that Sapphire aggressive decks have never quite caught on, but I think they're quite close to being good. And this is an interesting card for sure. Okay, last card of the video, we have Anna, the Diplomatic Queen, who I alluded to earlier. It's a 3-cost uninkable. It's a legendary. It's 2/3 stat line quest for 2. So while you can play it on turn 3, and that's an option, ideally you want to play it on turn 5 or later, because when you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to choose one. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. Chosen character gets +2 strength this turn. Banish chosen damage character. I think this card is very good. I think this card is very, very good. I actually love the look of this card. I'm going to be playing this card in my deck. Prince John is still the best way to go for Emerald now that Bucky's gone, in my opinion. I love Prince John. So any kind of discard synergy is great. The problem with a lot of discard cards is if you discard their whole hand, they become significantly worse, right? Like a big strategy against Prince John decks is that your opponent just tries to empty their hand as quickly as possible. And therefore, Arna on 5, discarding something is not going to be that good. Well, that's when you can make use of these other abilities. Extra strength could be great. Give your Ursula Deceiver suddenly 2 strength. It's a 3/3. Can remove something and stay on the board maybe. Could help deal with a location. Banish chosen damage character. That's also so powerful. Imagine your opponent used Maui the previous turn to remove your Prince John or something, whatever. Bam! Anna comes in. Arna comes in. Cleans out the Maui. This card's tremendously good. Even playing it on turn 3 is not that bad because it's uninkable. If you have like a really clunky uninkable hand, you can still just play it on turn 3. It's not good, but it's not terrible. It's still quest for 2. So I like this card a lot. This is my kind of card, actually. I'd love to see an enchanted version of this one. I want 4 copies of this right now. Really, really fun card. I think it's going to see a lot of competitive play. All right, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Second time I've recorded this because something went weird with my microphone. Thanks so much for watching. Again, don't forget to use that TCG Player affiliate link at the top of the description if you're buying cards over in America, North America. That would be much, much appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? See you guys soon. Cheers.